Welcome to Get the Balance Right, a podcast for creative entrepreneurs and firm owners looking to grow their business in a healthy, sustainable way. I'm your host, Heather Zeitzwolf. I'm a CPA and I serve this community with coaching and profit advising. Please join me as I talk with leaders in digital media, branding, advertising, design, marketing, and SEO. Hey everybody, welcome to another show of Get the Balance Right podcast. This is Heather Zeitzwolf. On today's show, I have Jen McFarland. She is a digital strategy expert, and she's also spent years being an analyst. So not only is she creative in that whole marketing sense, but she's also a numbers person. So guess what that means? We totally geeked out together. We talked about one of my absolute favorite topics, goals. You may recognize Jen because she's been on lots of other podcasts. Her firm is called Women Conquer Business, and she has a podcast with the same name. You might be asking to yourself, does she work with men? The answer is yes, but we kind of dive into that. So we recorded this interview in Zoom. Right behind Jen was this enormous whiteboard. I was so jealous of this whiteboard, and she told me that it was so large that she was not able to transport it in her Prius. My husband and I always joke about, in our Prius, we could fit anything, a couch, a table, anything. I can't remember how she transported this whiteboard because I was just so transfixed on the whiteboard. But we unfortunately don't get into this, but if you ever do a coaching call or something with Jen, maybe you'll get to see this enormous whiteboard behind her head. Okay, now watch out because here comes our geeky conversation about all things goals. Jen, welcome to my podcast. Thank you so much for being on my podcast today.
Hey, Heather, thanks for having me on.
We are going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, goals. I'm so psyched about this, but you have a really cool background that I'd like to dive into first. You used to work in analysis and you have a master's in public administration. What? Tell me about this.
Yeah, and it even gets crazier than that. I used to be a DJ at one point, and then I was in Peace Corps in Kazakhstan. And then after I got out of the Peace Corps, I discovered that I really like projects a lot. And my husband, I was like, what do I do now? And my husband and I were in Peace Corps together, and he's like, you should just do projects. So I went and got my master's degree. It's in leadership and management in public policy. My mentor there was really into project management and taught me all these really great tips and tricks. And then I went on to do that at the city of Portland in Portland, Oregon for 10 years, working on these huge projects and just implementing the same project management, these tricks that I learned how to do it. So I know how to really be tactical about project management. And since I started my business, I've found goals are so central to everything that we do that I've really enjoyed being able to take all of this experience and help people out with it now with small and medium-sized businesses.
You've created this business called Women Conquer Business. Tell me about the services that you provide.
So Women Conquer Business is a couple of things. So one for me is, as somebody who's a techie nerd woman who worked in project management on tech projects, it wasn't always easy for me as a woman. So I have created a business name that says, hey, women deserve a spot in the business world. The answer is yes, I work with men. But you have to be cool with the fact that women need a place here in business. And you might say, well, everybody thinks that. But I actually had I had spoken to a group of 10 men, and it was me and another woman around the table, and one of the men said, I'm never going to send anybody to you because of this business name. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know how to respond. And then upon reflection, the next day, I was like, that was actually really good information because I wouldn't have wanted to work with him either. So in a lot of ways, the business name is excellent marketing because people who are like, oh, that sounds cool, they're attracted to it. And then the people who are turned off by it probably aren't a good fit for me anyway. So that's kind of the name story.
So obviously you work with women, but what is the niche within females that you work with besides project managers?
Oh, yeah. I don't work with project managers specifically. What I found is there are actually 3 key things that every business needs to have in order to be successful. One is leadership. So you have to be able to champion whatever it is that you want to do. which involves goals, of course. And you need to have some sort of structure in place to help you manage all of these initiatives and projects that you have, which is the project management piece. And then the third element is marketing. And you have to have some level of knowledge in order to market, and that marketing can be done in person or online. So what I do is a holistic approach to really help small business owners get that confidence around their leadership so that they can manage their projects effectively and efficiently, and then stand out on their own and show up online. And so the way I do that is any number of different ways. I have a project that I'm working on with Prosper Portland. That's a local economic development agency here in Portland. And I help small business owners with all of the marketing that they have when they're just getting started so they can feel really confident with kind of getting things going. What I've been developing over here is, and it's been really successful so far, is really helping business owners get aligned with project management without having to use all those fancy project management terms, like stripping all of that out so that they can really just get into the nuts and bolts of what it's going to take to get things done. Because as much as I like goals, I really like getting stuff done. That's like my favorite thing. And then the leadership stuff, it really just filters in through all of the fears and the things that people have when they aren't sure about what the next steps are in order to get those things done. Or maybe they have a little bit of like imposter syndrome or something that they need to talk through. And usually we can do that through some exercises and stuff to really help people get their feet under them so they can fly and get things done the way that they've always wanted to.
When I talk to my clients about having goals, I always tell them, let's just start with what your vision is and get that completely aligned with what you want. How do you start with your clients with their goals and trying to be strategic? Where does it all start?
Yeah. And this is where kind of that leadership piece comes from, right? Like you have to have that vision. There are all these things that are bigger than goals. Too many times I see people focus solely on goals, or even worse, solely on tasks. So they're just like crossing things off that to-do list. And you can end up on that hamster wheel then. And the way I put it on my podcast is about, you want to make sure that you're climbing the right mountain. So having a business is so hard. You don't want to get to the end and be like, I really wanted to be at that mountain over there. And the peak of the mountain, the most important part as a small business owner is you as the owner. And then below that is your mission. And then below that is your vision. And then you start getting into the goals are really where the magic happens, right? It's where you take that mission and that vision, which can be aspirational and where people maybe are not sharing that publicly with everybody. You take all that aspirational stuff and then you start managing it in a way with goals that you can measure it and put tasks to it so that you can start working to it. But for me, if anything is out of alignment, whether it starts with you or your mission or your vision, then don't even start thinking about goals yet. Because if you just start working on goals, again, like it's all one big mountain. And if you're not focused on the top to bottom, and then also from the bottom to the top, you might end up in a place that you don't want to be.
Yeah, just running around in circles could be.
Yeah. Or doing all that work could mean that you're building something, but is it the right thing?
Hey there, this is Heather. Besides being a podcast host, I'm also a CPA and profit advisor. I help creative agencies grow in a sustainable manner. Right now, I'm offering a complimentary healthcare check of your business. So if you go down to the show notes, you'll see a link and you can sign up. All right, now back to the show. There's all this thoughts behind goals. There's books, tons of books on goals. And the one that I always hear about is SMART goals. Do you start with SMART goals or do you have a different acronym or what is your framework, I guess you'd call it, for your goals?
So I'm a nerd. I'm a project manager. I love SMART goals. So they all have to be specific and measurable. And that's really important when you're like drilling into things and you're setting up like your KPIs, those key performance indicators that tell you whether or not you're actually doing your goals. Where I like to start, though, is something a little bit more simple. A lot of times people are like, why aren't things working? Why am I not getting stuff done? Why are things not working the way that I think that they should? So we take a step back. I like to look at things from like three different perspectives. So if you think about goals in a different way, you think about the gym, right? Or like something that takes a long time to master. So it could be like going to the gym or learning to play guitar. Like the way that you become whatever that goal is, master guitar player or big time athlete, It really is about consistency. So it's about practicing a lot. It's about going to the gym a lot. Capacity, which means that you're not overwhelming yourself with stuff to do. And then impact. Are these actions that I'm taking leading to the impact that I really want them to? And I think that those three things are like the three key ingredients that really help people understand, am I setting the right goals? Am I not doing them because I really don't enjoy putting in the work day after day to be consistent to build whatever that goal is? And then am I really reaping the benefits or the rewards that I really want to see out of this? Those are the ways that I take it before we start nerding out on like smart goals and all the super nerdy stuff. It's that internal work. You have this mission, but you're not doing anything that you have to do day after day. So like, where's that disconnect? Like, why are we not doing it consistently? What is it that's happening at that level? Do you have a team? Are they not doing it? Is that because you're not describing it right? Or are they telling you that it's not working and you just want them to do it over and over? So there's a lot at that kind of level. And so to me, those are three key elements to any goal actually being fulfilled, is to look at it from that perspective, because so many goals aren't just one and done. Tasks are usually one and done, but then weekly tasks are what lead to like goal achievement and things like that. So I like to look at from that perspective first, and then later on we can look at setting up those specific and measurable goals around like, how many people are coming to my website? How many people out of that are actually buying from me? And how long have I been looking at it? And what changes have I made in order to do that? Or different things like that. As much as possible, I like to take people to a higher space of thinking before we drill into SMART goals.
One of the letters in the acronym of SMART goals is achievable. And I set the bar low so that I can achieve things. And that way I'm like, I did my goal. But then it keeps me back from really putting those lofty goals, like the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goals, because I'm like, I don't know if I can achieve it, and then I'll feel like such a loser. What are your thoughts on, should you be putting these big, hairy, audacious goals out there for yourself, or just do achievable ones?
Yes. That's not a yes or no question, but the answer, I think, it lies in the yes and. Yes, you should set the big, hairy, audacious goals. And you should set up an infrastructure below that so that you are constantly being fed with milestones and victories along the way that keep you going and keep you feeling motivated about that big goal. Too often people say, I'm going to make $1 million a year. If you're not making 2,000 a month or whatever, like that's a big gap. So what you want to do is set up milestones along the way and celebrations so that you feel like you're making achievement when you're setting things up that way. Now, I've talked to people and they say, I'm not motivated by any of that. But what it really does is those milestones, and you don't have to celebrate, although I've flipped many people to celebrations, because once you start doing it, it feels really pretty good. That's an easy thing to start adopting. What the milestones really do is they help you stay on track. Those are stops along the way that are achievable. You can measure them. You can look at them. Those are the SMART goals. Like the big, hairy, audacious goal is like where you want to be in like 5 or 10 years or something like that. So what we really want to do is have both. I think that if you're setting little goals without thinking about where that's actually going to lead, that may not be as satisfying as if you have key places that will tell you that you are heading in the right direction and on the right track.
What about being accountable? Do you think that people should have an accountability partner, or so that they keep on their goals, or what do you recommend to your clients?
Wow, everybody's different. Some people don't need that accountability partner. Some people are good with setting deadlines and actually completing them on deadline. Some people wait until the last minute of a deadline. I think it really depends on the person. But I have found it's an interesting thing in entrepreneurship. A lot of people who are the boss, like the deadlines don't seem to matter as much. But if you see a call coming with somebody who's supposed to be holding you accountable, you don't want to embarrass yourself with your accountability buddy. So a lot of times accountability does seem to work. It's like, again, to use the gym analogy, it's like having a buddy that you're going to the gym with. As long as they're not that buddy who's, I would like to go to the bakery with you. As long as you have the actual accountability buddy who's like all in with you, you're not going to want to let that person down. And it's the same thing with having, whether it's like a group of people that you meet once a month and kind of talk about your goals and then set new ones so that you have to follow up, or it can be done like any number of ways. I actually encourage people to have some sort of accountability and then also some sort of reward. Like I said, set up a milestone. And then when you achieve it, give yourself a pat on the back, whatever that looks like for you.
What about having too many goals? I feel like sometimes I have too many things I'm working on, and then it's just taking longer, and I'm probably not hitting those milestones and getting the great feedback that I want. I've achieved this. Now I can have some champagne or something. But
Yeah. So that kind of gets us back to the consistency, capacity, and impact. Like you can only achieve so much in one day or 1 week or 1 month or even 1 quarter. So if you set too many goals, then it's like when you, not that we really have circuses anymore, but everybody's seen the skit where people are spinning plates on poles. And if you have too many plates up in the air, some of them are going to fall and break. Instead of giving yourself too many goals that are going to fall and break and give you an opportunity to feel bad about something, it's better to have something that you can manage and then really focus on that and then see where it goes. And that's where you really develop things like mastery. So pick the things that you are central to your core mission that will further your business and also that you enjoy doing, and start there and then worry about things further on down the list. It's about priorities, man.
I feel like sometimes I think I'm not alone. I get maybe that shiny object syndrome. Like I find out about some new software or something, and I'm like, ooh. And then I start going down that path, and then the rep for the software is calling me like as if I'm going to be ordering this. And now I'm doing tests, and then now I'm trying to get a certificate in this thing. I'm like, how do you keep your clients on the path that they're supposed to be and not get pulled into shiny objects?
Look, we're all susceptible to that. I love software too. Tech project manager, remember. So I'm always looking for ways to help people cut corners and streamline things. But this is where the real project management piece comes in. If you're setting up like big goals and then you're setting up the infrastructure below that for what it's going to take to get that done, it's going to require some budget and a commitment from you to fulfill it. And I think that where people, and this is why I don't really like tools like Trello, Asana, although maybe Asana is better, but a lot of times they focus too much on tasks and they're not talking about how much time, which is money, and money it's going to take to actually get something done. And I think that when you really plan things out and how much time and money things are going to cost you, that actually keeps you more focused on the things that are most important. And it keeps you from spending money and time on things that are not really central or key to what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And part of that too is also making sure that you're not like overstretching yourself, because I find a lot of times, at least for me, I end up with the shiny object syndrome when I really shouldn't be online on Facebook or whatever, and something really appealing that seems like the solution to all of my problems suddenly pops up as an ad, and I fall down a rabbit hole. So I think that really it's about that self-management. And then it's also about being really selective about what's in and what's out, and then holding yourself to it. And that's sometimes the hardest part. But I can tell you that there's really no one thing that's going to solve all of your problems. Like this entrepreneurship is hard. Having a business is hard. Having some really key priorities that you're going to hold yourself to is really the only way to keep yourself out of shiny object syndrome. And that said, I think it's always going to be a temptation.
Hey there, this is Heather. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. And if you are, if you wouldn't mind, please hit the subscribe button now. That way you'll never miss an episode. All right, now back to the podcast. So as far as software or tools for goals, which ones do you recommend so that we can just go straight there and not have the object syndrome?
Oh man, I knew you were going to ask me that. So
like I have a book that I write my daily goals in, plus I have a calendar, plus I have a Google sheet. I use different methods just to keep myself on task. I've got a whiteboard, and so it's not all in one spot. And you said that there is no one tool that will do it all. But do you have any that you recommend or some method you recommend?
Yeah. And it's an odd time to ask me this because technically I'm in between project management software right now, because it's like a quest to find the best way for me to manage my projects, because I have a very specific methodology for doing it. So I run a lot of spreadsheets and stuff to make it work. And it's not necessarily an online app, but I'm always on the lookout for the thing that's going to work. It depends on the project. So the answer is always, it depends. There isn't one, unfortunately, because I've been working on this with a client. I can't find one tool that does excellent email marketing, CRM, and project management, which is really what I think most businesses need, is some iteration on that handles it all. And you might say HubSpot, but a lot of people can't afford the HubSpot price point in the small business realm to get all of the tools that I just listed to do everything that you need them to do. I would say that, and HubSpot, I'm not convinced is going to do it all either for most people. And I think that like Trello and Asana and all those work fine, but you just have to realize that's really just focusing you on tasks. Those Kanban boards are really good for helping you move tasks down the line. So you need to have some other process, I think, to help you really focus on goals and goal achievement. And honestly, right now, I think that is a spreadsheet or a list somewhere that you are like systematically going through your goals and then what you think it's going to take to actually achieve those goals. And then those are the things that go in your Kanban board for achievement. I know most people tend to use like Trello or Asana or something like that. You can get more complexity if you use a tool like Monday, or Basecamp doesn't do Gantt charts, but Basecamp is another good one for like collaboration. One of the apps that I've been looking at lately with a lot of interest is called ClickUp, and it does a lot of project management capability. And then it also integrates with all the tools you're already using. So you can use it for a hub for like files, file sharing and things like that, and not just the management of projects and teams. There are a lot of tools out there, but I would say the most important thing is having some sort of process. And that's a lot of what I walk people through, is like the process of going from whatever those big goals are down to the little tasks that you need to do every day to get stuff done. So make sure you're focused on both and come up with a way that you're tracking the achievement of both. So you're not just crossing things off of a list and adding to a list. You don't want that drift to happen where you're actually drifting away from your goals because you're just focused on Kanban boards. So I hope that makes sense. But there are a lot of tools out there that are super great for managing tasks.
I'm so glad that you said spreadsheets, because I love spreadsheets, and I put all my stuff in spreadsheets. And to me, it's you can put an extra tab, and have it. Okay. To me, I think that's actually a lot easier to use. And then what I don't like is when you use the software, then you put all the information in that software, and then it's like, what if you decide not to use that software anymore? Now it's all in there, and I don't know.
It's a pain. Yeah. There's some things that you need, like a good CRM is nice for managing contacts and things like that. Has like a tie-in to like your G Suite or Office 365. Something like that is really good. But yeah, a lot can be managed on spreadsheets. And I had a feeling, talking to a numbers gal, that I was going to get a lot of applause for my spreadsheet recommendation.
Yeah, I'm always like, we should put this in a spreadsheet. I get excited about that. You had a couple of things on your website that I wanted to ask you about before we wrap up. One is Eisenhower Matrix Canvas. You had a link or something to that. What is that? I've never heard of that.
So I did the whole podcast about that. So you know how sometimes you feel like your whole day you're running around with your hair on fire and you're just putting out fires? What that does is you just have 4 squares on a piece of paper and you're setting the priorities. And what that does is it keeps you out of keeping your hair on fire. So you're at least putting a little bit of time every day to work on something more long-term. So all that an Eisenhower matrix does is helps you look at the tasks and keeps you on point, like on any day. Because I don't know how often it happens to you, but I find that happens to myself and my clients, where we get drifted out of whatever we had planned to do for the day because something pops up in our email, or we get a call, or you start drifting off into Facebook land or LinkedIn land, wherever you go on social media. So what the Eisenhower matrix does is it puts things into a more of a priority order, where it takes you out of just swatting flies in email all day, and keeps you working on short, medium, and long-term goals.
I've been blocking out time on my calendar, which has really been so helpful, because I will go down that rabbit hole of answering emails. And now I'm like, nope, it's not my time to do that. I'm going to focus on other things.
Yeah. And so what this does too is like, I think you can do it online, and you can also do it. There are apps that help with the Eisenhower matrix. You just have a piece of paper next to you. If something comes in that's new, where you can just prioritize it based on the actual need Because a lot of times we also, and I'm guilty of it too, we forget that somebody else's deadline may not be the same as ours. And so we'll jump on something. And then before it's 8 o'clock at night, and you're like, I still haven't gotten to like the one thing I had to do today.
I also wanted to ask you about, on your website, you had a land acknowledgement. I've never seen that before. It seems super powerful and such a great gesture. What's behind that? Can you explain that?
Yeah. So what the land acknowledgement is something that if you work with people from Canada, they do this a lot. They talk about the land of where they are. And in doing the work that I've done with Prosper Portland, we're helping women and people of color all the time with their businesses. It's for an organization called Mercatus. And if you look it up, they're specifically focused on helping marginalized folks get their businesses ahead. So I was checking up on some of the people I've helped through Prosper Portland, and I saw this land acknowledgement on the bottom of one of the websites for a business called Tattoo 34. I was like, that's really cool. And then I looked into the Portland Indian Leaders Roundtable and found the language actually from, I think, Portland Community College. They have a land acknowledgement. And I decided to include it on my website. I wanted to link to the Portland Indian Leaders Roundtable, but the website was down. I need to check again. But yeah, it's just a way of talking about all of the people who've lived here before me, thanking them for taking care of this beautiful place where we're so fortunate to live. Yeah, I just did that in the last few months. And it's just something that I really believe in is really, I think part of being inclusive is showing up as publicly as you can about it and helping people. And I thought that this was just one way that I could let people know that I care about the environment and the land and the people who've been here since forever.
Yeah, I love that. I just had never seen that on anyone's website before. I thought it was really cool. We're going to wrap up here, but before we do, can you let people know how they can work with you and how they can get a hold of you and all of that good stuff?
All of the good stuff, all of the good things and stuff. So my name is Jen McFarland. My business is called Women Conquer Business. You can find me at womenconquerbiz.com. I also have a podcast called Women Conquer Business. Super easy because it's all the same names. And you can find that on all major podcasting platforms. And a lot of times we're talking about something similar to this. It's really geared on like how-tos. I think it's listed under education, actually. And then, yeah, I'm available on LinkedIn, Pinterest. I have a big Pinterest thing. And then also on Twitter. You can find me at all of those places. And yeah, I would love to hear from you and answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Hey, this is Heather. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. If you found value in the show, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a rating on iTunes, or just simply tell a friend about it. And if you're interested in learning more about my profit advising and coaching, please set up a discovery call by using the link in the show notes. All right. Thanks so much and see you next time.